Welcome to another episode of Joe and the Fat Man. Big Ten Media Day has come and gone, and as he's become pretty good at doing, James Franklin got at least one opposing fan base riled up. Franklin doubled down on his stance from January that Notre Dame and everybody else should be in a conference. He also said that every conference should play the same amount of games and that either everybody should have the chance to play in a conference championship game or nobody should have the chance to play in a conference title game. All of these are things that he said before, but every time he says them, he gets a reaction. I'm going to bring in my co-host, as always, Kyle Fatman Golick, who works with me at Nittany Sports Now, Jay Hallahan, who writes for Mike Farrell Sports and doubles as our producer. Fellas, we're getting to the point where we're starting to talk about more about the expectations, more about what Penn State can do this year, a little less about recruiting since the official visit season is over, although we do have a recruiting segment planned for this episode. But talking about Big Ten Media Days, James Franklin really doubled down on his stance that upset a lot of Notre Dame fans because Notre Dame fans feel slighted since they're fans of really the only major independent program in the country. What do you guys think? Was Franklin right? Should Notre Dame be in a conference? Should every team have to play either 9 conference games or 8 conference games instead of a mix of both, which we're seeing with the Big Ten and the SEC? Should every team have the chance to play in a conference championship game or not have a chance to play in a conference title game? What do you guys think of all this, Fat Man? We'll start with you.
So I wrote a column on this about saying James Franklin is right, shameless plug, please click, etc. I am 100% behind James Franklin. There is no other sport, and we're talking about the foundations of the organization of it all here. We're not talking about things that are tertiary. We're not talking about like resources and things of that nature. We're literally fundamentally arguing about should we play 8 games or 9 games in a conference. We're fundamentally arguing should we have a conference championship or we're not. We're also fundamentally arguing right now, how many spots should be in this thing, which to me, if you can't get down the scheduling and you can't get down if you're having essentially, we'll call it in the grand scheme of things, these conference championships are like division championships out of it all. How can we take anything else seriously? The thing people has to understand here and where James is coming from is, number one, you have to look at the amount of athletes that are within the Big Ten and the resources that each of those programs have. So they're able to be deeper. You don't want to necessarily look at this from the top high end view. That's easy to kind of glaze over and be like, oh, you got to look down in the depth chart and look at the talent that's really in the back end, like right off of the 2D, like the final 40 scholarship players. And you start seeing, well, wait a minute, these 40 scholarship players would be starters maybe at the G5 level or even at lower levels. That's where you're getting involved at. This is where the attrition battle comes in. So I'm 100% with James Franklin on this. And again, I will always champion Notre Dame being in a conference for one simple reason. If in 2020, when everything looked bleak, they tucked and ran to play in the ACC for a season and even played in an ACC championship game in football. So this independent purity, these Notre Dame, purists and whatnot, I don't buy it. You've done it. You've broke it. Get with it now.
I just want to start this off by saying I'm not trying to play devil's advocate for Notre Dame at all here. But until the committee or whatever have you forces them, which essentially 2020 did, basically forced them to join a conference, until that happens, Notre Dame can be financially stable as an independent, and it just doesn't seem like they're ever going to be willing to do it. And I really agree with James, but until that happens, it just feels like Notre Dame's going to continue to be this independent powerhouse that can essentially fund itself.
Well, 2020 is a little bit of an aberration because of the worldwide pandemic,
Yeah.
and Big Ten was shutting things off, and all the other conferences wasn't. At that point, Notre Dame had no other option, and that's really what it's going to come down to. You got to read between the lines of what Tony Petiti is saying. He's jockeying for more spots. He need like even the SEC needs to keep its value up because ESPN is playing a lot of money for that brand, and they need multiple brands to be viable for that marketing dollar. So we're going to keep it in Big Ten country because that's where we reside at. And you got to realize you have three major networks that are paying the Big Ten a lot of money. And so you got a lot of time slots that need to be fed. There's the Fox Prime slot is at noon. The CBS has the 3:30, and NBC has the prime time slot. So you got to have the slots being able to viable. You need to make sure, hey, if Fox wants to air Big Ten action late at night, i.e., Pac-12 after dark, you got a reason to stay up to watch UCLA, USC, Oregon, or Washington. So you have a lot of those things playing out there. You know, what's going to inevitably happen is you heard Petiti say, well, we want to have play-in games for the college football playoff. We want to have like a 3-6 and 4-5 matchup where the winners of those games make the college football playoff. Why do they want to do it? Because as an additional inventory item that they can plug on the other network. So if CBS is hosting the Big Ten championship game, Fox and NBC now have inventory to air that same day those games. So it's all a ploy to get to that four slots. There's a lot of money behind this. And if you're thinking the Big Ten is just out there, and you're seeing Stuart Mandel, the Athletic, go after them, and many other writers, it's not that we're all crazy here. It's they're trying to create inventory in the additional revenue stream so that in I think 5 years from now, whenever they're renegotiating these TV deals, they're able to increase them because they're going to have to pay Oregon and Washington a full share. So they need that inventory to make up for the partial shares that they're paying now.
Yeah. And when Big Ten fans complain about Big Noon, and I get why, right? I mean, we don't want. It's easy to be turned off by the biggest games of the day, if not in the Big Ten, the entire country, if not the country that week, maybe the biggest games of the entire season being played at noon. It's not really what college football is about in a lot of people's eyes, but at the same time, this is what the Big Ten wanted. This is what gets the Big Ten the most money, and these days it probably wasn't always like this, but certainly like this now. Fans of conferences, especially the SEC is the chief offender, but Big Ten fans are like this too. If you're a fan of one team in a conference, you're a fan of the entire conference, and you're rooting for the conference to succeed. So, you mentioned the TV deals. Yeah, those are getting the Big Ten a lot of money, and Big Noon's a big part of that. So, as much as Big Ten fans want a damn Big Noon, you can kind of see the financial end of why the Big Ten and especially why Fox agreed to it and is getting a lot out of it. And that TV deal money is why the Big Ten is in a hell of a lot better state than the ACC and the Big 12 are.
You also got to consider, and this is where I'm going to say it's unfair to Notre Dame, even though so they play a boon or bust situation financially with the college football playoff. Now, because they were able to go in advance and do what they did, they were able to keep for themselves $20 million extra income. Okay. Penn State had to share, but guess what? And that share was $2.56 million. Okay. But if Penn State doesn't make it, they still get $2.56 million. If Notre Dame doesn't make it, they make as much as you, Joe, and I do. That's zero.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that there's a competitive playing field because you don't want one team making a lot and the team's not making enough. So you got to, in my opinion, you have to find that level playing field where everyone benefits from it.
Right. And since they're an independent, I mean, they make everything from their TV contract just goes to Notre Dame with the NBC contract. So they may not make anything in the college football playoffs, but then with their TV deal, they're able to make, maybe that money back. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
Yeah, and to me, it's you bring in the fact that Notre Dame can play a 12-game season. Yeah. Okay, Notre Dame challenges itself, so we got to think. But in theory, because the committee doesn't value strength of schedule, Notre Dame could pull off, hey, we're going to play 6 cupcakes in 6 ACC games. We don't have to play a conference championship game. And if we're 11-1, we got access to the top 4 seeds. How is that fair to like a Big 12 that has to play 9 games in a conference championship? The Big 10 that has to do the same thing. And then even the SEC and the ACC play 8, and they have that conference championship game on top of it. So there's legitimate beef of standardization that needs to happen in this sport.
What would be crazy is if they join, say, the Big 10, so they would keep the USC, the Purdue rivalry, but then what happens to the Stanford rivalry that they also have as well, and Miami too? I mean, in the ACC, like, do those rivalry games just essentially go away, or are they just going to schedule home and homes every single year? I mean that's something.
That's what they're going to run up against, because think about it. They lost last year to Northern Illinois. They also lost to Marshall a few years ago too. So they're starting to play lower tier teams because they have 9 or 10 games that are really, really tough. So you lose, and Notre Dame's in a situation where I would say, as long as they have access and they have money coming in, they're going to live like that. But when you got conferences like the Big 10 and the SEC that want more of the pie, and the thing is, you can't get, in my opinion, guys, you can't get past 16 teams for this playoff, or else this thing is going to be way too long and unwieldy. So they're right up against it, and they know that. So how do you keep your Power 4 happy, knowing that you have a Super 2 that want to command more of the pie? You got to give access to the Group of 5. Because they're in this classification, unless they decide to say, hey, we're breaking this apart and the Power 4's going this way and anyone who's not is going that way. So that's where I think we will see, maybe not now, maybe not next year, but I'm going to tell you what, we may look back on this video 10 years from now when a lot of these contracts are renewing and there's this power structure, and Notre Dame's looking to get into a conference because the pie's been consumed by this, essentially a Champions League, leagues between SEC and the Big 10, and that's their only way in.
Yeah.
All right, some good big picture discussions about college football in segment 1. Segment 2, we'll talk about specifically Penn State and what the expectations are coming into this season. That's coming up on Joe and the Fat Man.